What if everything you thought you knew about Custer's last stand was a lie? For over a century, schoolbooks told us it was a heroic final stand, Custer and his men fighting bravely until the last bullet. But the words of Two Moons, a Cheyenne warrior who stood on that battlefield, shatter that version of history. His account is not of glory, but of chaos. Soldiers breaking ranks, some fleeing in terror, and others making unthinkable choices you will never read in a classroom. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes you'll hear Two Moons' story exactly as he told it. And by the end, you'll see this legendary battle in a way you've never imagined. Before we begin, hit like, share, and subscribe, because this is the side of history they never wanted you to know. It was the spring of 1876. My people, the Cheyenne, lived peacefully along the Powder River near today's Fort McKinney. 50 lodges stood there, full of children, families, and the rhythm of everyday life. But before sunrise, the quiet shattered. Colonel Mackenzie, whom we called Three Fingers, charged into our camp with his soldiers. They struck suddenly without warning. Panic ripped through us. Men, women, and children scattered in every direction. In that chaos, we lost what we valued most, our horses. Every pony was driven off, leaving us stranded, humiliated, and heartbroken. But that night, wrapped in darkness, we crept back. Moving like shadows, we slipped past the soldiers' guards. One by one, we reclaimed what they had stolen, our horses. By dawn, we were gone, pushing far and fast to escape the bluecoats. Days later, luck led us to a vast Sioux encampment at Charcoal Butte. It was a site of abundance. Lodges stretched across the plains, fresh grass, wild game, and clear water. At the center stood Crazy Horse. He welcomed me not as a stranger, but as a brother. His eyes burned with quiet determination as he said, "I am glad you are here. We prepare again to fight the white soldiers." The camp swelled with warriors, their resolve heavy in the air. A storm was coming, and every man knew it. By May, the horses had regained their strength. We rode toward the Tongue River, joining Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, and others as we advanced up the Rosebud. There, we collided with General Crook's army. The fight was no small skirmish. It was a violent clash. The air filled with smoke and dust, rifles thundered, and war cries echoed through the valley. Soldiers fell in numbers, while only a few of our warriors were lost. Against the odds, we had won. Afterward, we pushed north and made camp in the valley of the Little Horn. For a time, it felt as though we had finally escaped the white soldiers' grasp. Peace, if only briefly, seemed possible. Then a messenger arrived, breathless, crying out, "Prepare for a great celebration. Cook food, make ready for a dance." The women roasted meat, cut tobacco, and laughter filled the camp. Drums pounded as we celebrated freedom from the soldiers' pursuit. I led my horses to drink at the stream, washed their hides, then dove into the cold water myself. For the first time in months, I felt cleansed of war. But as I walked back toward the village, everything shifted. Far up the Little Horn, above Sitting Bull's camp, a massive dust cloud rose like a storm. Soon, Sioux riders thundered in, shouting with dread, "Soldiers are coming!" Countless soldiers. The air snapped with tension. I ran to my lodge, calling to my brother-in-law, "Quick, ready the horses, the white soldiers are here." Even before the words left my lips, I heard the sharp cracks of rifles and the terrifying, "Hey-eh! Hey-eh!" war cries rolling closer. Chaos erupted. Women grabbed children and ran for cover. Men seized their weapons. I shouted over the noise, "I am Two Moons! You are headmen! Stand! Do not flee! Resist the soldiers! I will stay, even if I die here!" Leaping onto my horse, I charged toward Sitting Bull's camp. Ahead, the valley had exploded into battle. Reno's men were breaking, running for their lives. Like a herd of panicked buffalo, they plunged into the riverbed, but escape was impossible. Sioux warriors pressed them hard, driving them to the bluffs. The fight raged. Messengers cried that soldiers were threatening the women. Furious, the Sioux wheeled back to defend them. Chief Gall fought with fierce rage. Crazy Horse, too, leading like thunder itself. Back at my own camp, I stopped the women from moving the lodges. From my horse, I scanned the ridge, and then I saw them. Flags. At first faint, but then clear, columns of soldiers advancing in 3 neat lines, their intervals sharp, deliberate. A bugle cut the air, clear and commanding. Soldiers dismounted, some leading horses back behind the hill, the rest forming ranks, rifles ready. Then came the charge. Sioux warriors stormed the ridge, dust exploding beneath pounding hooves. We Cheyennes swung wide left, the Sioux pressed from the right. Gunfire cracked, pop, 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 so fast it was like thunder rolling across the land. The soldiers held firm at first, officers barking orders, some kneeling, others standing. Smoke choked the air, dust rising thick around us. We circled them again and again, riding, firing, pulling back, returning. Like water swirling around a stone, we closed tighter. Soldiers fell, horses collapsed, the bluecoats dropping in heaps. Yet one figure caught my eye. Amid the chaos, a man on a sorrel horse with a white blaze rode the line over and over, urging his men not to falter. I did not know his name, but his courage was plain. Still the circle tightened. Bullets found their mark. Soldiers and horses fell until only a handful remained. Now and then, one desperate man tried to break away, but each was cut down before he could reach safety. At last, barely 100 soldiers stood, with only a few horses left. The bugler still played, his calls ringing defiantly. He, too, was brave, unyielding to the end. Then a cry swept through us. "Long Hair, Custer, is dead!" Whether true or not, it surged like fire among the warriors. Some soldiers tried to break free. 40 men and the last horseman surged toward the river, led by the sorrel horse rider in buckskins, with long black hair and a heavy mustache. He waved a great knife, shouting himself hoarse. Dust coated their uniforms so thick I could not tell rank from private. One man ran far ahead, racing toward the river, circling back over the ridge. For a heartbeat, it looked like he might escape, until a Sioux rifle dropped him with a shot to the head. He wore stripes on his sleeves. He was the last. When silence finally fell, the field was covered with bodies. Stripped of gear, their uniforms torn, their faces stilled forever where they had fallen. That night, no dancing followed. Though victory was ours, sorrow weighed heavy, for we all knew the vengeance that would come. The next morning, I rode out with Sioux leaders and 2 fellow Cheyennes to count the dead. One man carried a bundle of sticks. For every lifeless body, he dropped 1 stick aside. When he finished, the truth lay in a single pile. 388 bodies in all. Among them, 39 Sioux and 7 Cheyennes, with nearly 100 of our own wounded. Some soldiers were cut to ensure they were dead. A few were disfigured by grieving women, but most remained untouched, lying as they had fallen. I remember the man with the mustache. We found him downhill near the river. Custer lay higher on the crest, his buckskin jacket still on him. The Sioux said, "That is Long Hair." I could not confirm. I had never seen him before. But one thing was certain. The rider on the sorrel horse showed the greatest bravery of any man that day. His shouts and defiance still echo in my memory. At sunset, our young men rode up the Little Horn and stopped, staring. Far downriver, a steamboat approached, its smokestack pouring black smoke into the fading sky. More soldiers were coming, many more. At once, we broke camp, fleeing into the Rotten Grass Valley. 3 days later, we moved east, retracing old trails. Sitting Bull went north toward the Yellowstone, and I never saw him again. 388 sticks. That was the count, a number that whispers still, a measure of both triumph and loss. I, 2 Moons, witnessed it all. The dance before the storm, the desperate courage of the sorrel horse rider, and the terrible price of that blood-soaked field. So I ask you, was 2 Moons giving us the true account of Custer's last stand, or has memory blurred into legend? One thing is certain, his testimony does not match the heroic version we were taught. Now I want to hear from you. Do you believe Custer's men fell in a desperate stand, or collapsed in fear? Tell me in the comments. I'll be reading everyone, and if you crave more hidden history, hit subscribe, because the next Eyewitness story will be even more explosive.